Good morning, class. This is a video for the 9th of February. I hope you're all having a nice weekend. They're demoing the house right next door to me, so, as usual, there'll be some good ambient noise going on today. So I'll try to keep this one relatively brief in case it gets a little too loud. So what I want to go through today is just kind of building upon and kind of focusing in on some of the detail uses of the schedules, the way that we laid them out, and start looking at how you might articulate your program more specifically inside of a floor plate as you begin to actually lay out different levels. So I'm going to quickly just insert a mass to use as, say, the base part of of your program. I'm just going to give myself maybe 150 by 70, assuming you're doing something kind of fun here. At the base of the program for your exhibition space and maybe for the artist in residence. And I'll go into create a 3D view and then take this and create a form with it. And I'm just going to kind of play with a couple of these edges. And I mentioned this in the lab a little bit the other day, but just to sort of reinforce what I sort of see as the working method. If you imagine this being your sort of base piece, and then wanted to make another mass, I'm going to go and insert another mass in place here. And just as we did with so say this is your office tower rising up. Trying to snap to that corner there. And let's make this 148 by 60. It's a little small, I think, for your program, but we'll kind of run with it and make it 400 feet tall. So assuming this is your office piece sort of rising up from below, you could either kind of pull the base of this mass up, or if you wanted to think about it as something that was actually kind of moving down through the other mass, you could cut it away. So if I go to the cut tool, just as we did the other day with the we did the other day with the stairs, you can also do this with your programming masses so that you can be removing one mass from the other. So in this case, I end up with kind of an atrium space, and when I go to put mass floors in, if I just do if I do level 1 and level 2, you're going to see that it's kind of only giving me the mass floors for the first mass that I made, and then I could go back and do mass floors for the other one inside of that. Then I end up with two different sets of mass floors that I could then use the programming tools that we talked about to actually lay out. I am going to go into the elevation view here and adjust these levels. Make this first one, I'm going to make it kind of a taller space up to 20 feet, floor to floor, and then I'm going to array the others up on our typical, let's go with the 15 foot, we want 20 of them. Get up. See, maybe go to 20. So I can click on one of these and change the number to, say, let's try 26. See if that does it perfect. And then I can go back to my mass floors again and choose the rest of these. And I need to do that again for each of the different masses. So this lower mass, I only need to do it for 2, 3, 4, and 5. And lastly, I'll just come in and just reinforcing a lot of this. Go in and make floor plans for each of these under the View tab. I can select all those other new levels that I've made, and it will give me the layout for all of those. Moving down back in the 3D view here, just so you can see what this results in. So now what I want to do is zoom in here to one of the lower levels and start laying it out. Let's assume we're going to put the exhibit space and some of the artist in residence space down in here. And so I'm just going to use a simple wall type, just an 8-inch generic wall, maybe CMU, maybe something else, just to initially start laying out some of the volumes here. If I assume this is some kind of an entrance piece coming from one side and maybe another one over here, I'm going to start off just by making kind of a lobby space, maybe 20 feet square. And I'm going to go ahead and complete these walls all the way around the exterior, even though I would need to come back. I'll probably come back and change that to a curtain wall or something at some point. And then, so assume this is sort of a lobby or entrance into some exhibits. And then what I can do is continue on, maybe assuming that each of these galleries is maybe about 40 feet long. I'm just going to snap these to kind of complete them. And I'll go ahead and use the, I'm going to go ahead and make another gallery. I'm just going to assume that each of these are, say, 20 feet long, 20 feet wide, kind of moving along on this side, with, say, a corridor down the middle here. There's circulation. It's going to be a really simple layout. Just want to get some rooms that I can begin to use. And one thing that's going to be kind of valuable, I know we've looked at these in the past, is using the equal sign to come back in here and make each of these galleries, let's go 3, all the same size. So I'm going to do that by coming in with the measure tool and clicking a series of measurements along here and pulling this out. And at this point here, I can use that equal sign actually between 4 different walls to define them all to be equally spaced. And when I do that, what it results in is another. So what I've just done is define another dimension here. I can come in and actually select the wall that I would want to move and define this to be 80 feet. So now they're all equally going to be defined as 20-foot walls along there. So I've linked that, and at any point if I wanted to scale them up, say to kind of finish this out all the way to the corner, I can move this wall, or I could scale this up. So let's try and go about 110 feet and see how far that goes. You can see how this wall here that it had joined became unjoined, and again I can just drag this out and all of the other walls are basically going to snap to it as I go. This is a little deceptive because I'm looking down through a 3-dimensional geometry. And then I can use the dot here at the end to drag the length of this wall to match. So I'm going to assume this is kind of a long set of galleries going along that way. And then I'll go ahead and mirror these across the hallway. I'm going to hold Control to select each of these walls, and then use the mirror tool. I need to find, I think I'll just go ahead and mirror them across that way and then move them. That's not the best way to do it because it's not joined with those other walls. So I'll select those again and hit mirror, and maybe mirror along that axis. And now I can grab that endpoint and pull them up to match the others. And here again, I can do either trim extend or something to kind of bring them out to the rest of the space here. I'm gonna remove this one at the end and kind of just clean this up a little bit. And you can do this however you'd like. I'm just trying to get a sort of layout here of a variety of of different spaces. Floor is shaking from the backhoe next door. I'm using the trim extend single element, and I'm selecting the face of this wall I just drew and extending those gallery walls down to each of the subsequent wall pieces. And I'll just get this one laid out, and then I'll use trim extend to corner to basically fillet between those two, and one more extend to extend that last one. So what I'm going to assume is that these four along here are all artists in residence spaces, and this might be some storage, and again this would be your lobby space. I'm going to go ahead and pull this wall back to sort of tie it into the corridor. So these galleries we're just going to go ahead and open up with a series of openings. Since we don't want them to go floor to ceiling, we can come in here to the door types, and what I can do is all right, so I had to go get some families loaded back into this. So I closed the file out, and I noticed that a lot of you have actually been running into the same problem. My mass is gone now in this level. I've shown a few of you, but in order to get that back, you need to hit the letters VG back to back. So literally just hit the letter V and then the letter G, and it brings up the visibility graphics. You're going to use this quite a bit once you get more complex models, trying to manage what visually you're actually seeing. And you can see here that the mass is actually unchecked once I've opened this file back up. So if I check that again, it'll bring that mass back in so that I can continue snapping to it. So now with that mass back, what I want to do is actually go ahead and put in some openings between these galleries. So rather than I'm still going to use a regular door. If I were to just cut the wall, you can see in 3D here that would cause the walls to actually not go, or the openings to go all the way to the ceiling inside of that lower level. So I actually want to insert them as openings. So I'm going to come in here, hit load family, and go to my door library. And you can see there's one here that's just called door opening. It's just that simple. Inside of a gallery space, I'm probably going to have a pretty good size opening. So I might change this to be, say, 8 feet wide. And I've got a 20-foot ceiling here, so I'll probably go ahead and change the height up to 10 feet as well. And you can see that's just going to provide me a way to come through here, place a series of openings from gallery to gallery. And maybe I'll do 2 of them here from the lobby. Okay. And then, into the artist in residence spaces, I'm actually going to come in here and kind of even up these walls a little bit so that the spaces are a bit more equal. So again, I'll use the measure tool to create a series of dimensions between each of those, and then hit the equal to space them out. And, within each of these, you might imagine that, say, there's a closet, some storage space. I'm going to put it up here towards the front, maybe 12 by 12, something like that. Anyway, I really just want you to kind of get in here, start doing some modeling, getting a sense of how the walls are going to be working as you're laying out different floor plates, and what the general sort of working process is for each of them. And then this might be storage up here for the gallery spaces, something like that. And then we could imagine maybe some retail up front here. I'm gonna sort of draw that in as something that's kind of floating in the middle of the space. Maybe it's like a coffee shop or something. Okay. So once you've got an approximate layout, really what I'm looking for you to have is 3 or 4 different program typologies on a given floor. Because what we want to do now is actually use the same kind of scheduling process that we were looking at before to come in here and manipulate some of these spaces. I'm going to go in and put a typical kind of maybe 36 by 84 set of doors. Might do a couple going into this storage space. Again, I'm hitting the space bar to change the orientation. I need to come back and change that one. Well, since these are gallery kind of artist in residence spaces, people are going to be coming and visiting. They might actually go out like that. And some doors into the storage closets, and then maybe a couple of doors into the coffee shop down here. And let's just go ahead and put one more storage space in the back. The retail space and a door out the back. There we go. Okay. So at this point, now we want to start looking at how we might designate different areas that we can use inside of the schedule to help us sort of figure out exactly how the program is functioning. And we're also going to look at ways to actually define or to create some diagrams using this floor plan. So here under the architecture tab, there's a room button, and this is just a room tag. Literally allows you to tag the space. By default, this tag on placement button is here. We don't actually want to do that. In a lot of the diagrams, drawings that you're going to be doing this semester, you're not going to want to have every single one of these rooms tagged with a name. That's a lot of work that I have to go through and do, and typically you're going to do it in more of a diagrammatic fashion. So I'm going to encourage you to go ahead and turn this off. It may be that you want to come back and do it later on. You can see by default when I go to an interior space here, it's actually seeing the boundaries of each of the different spaces and articulating them. So what I want to do is come in, just click through and define each of these as a separate space. You can see how here in the corridor it actually doesn't see an enclosure, so it's not delimiting it for me. Each of the artists in residence, and then each of the closets that are associated with it, the storage for the retail, and the retail space itself. Once those are all done, you can see as I mouse over that I get that X, and I can select it. So you can go through and select them, and then you'll see there are a series of options once you've selected one of the room tags along the side. 1, seeing where the level is actually defined as. And 2, down here, you can see there's a number, and then a name. And also a series of other definitions that you might find in a room schedule, defining some of the finishes, and defining the kind of occupancy, which is something we were looking at earlier. In this case, what I want to do is define these as their different program types. So I'm going to call this gallery, and I'm going to go into the department. So I'm going to call the name of the space gallery, and I'm going to call the department exhibit or exhibition. And I'm going to go through and hold control and select these other 4 gallery spaces and do the same thing. You can see once I've typed it in once, I can hit the down arrow and I can select those. So now when I select each of these, they're all defined as galleries and exhibit. I'm going to call this one storage for the name, and the department will also be exhibition. And then each of these spaces I'll control click, and I'm going to call those artist, or let's call them studio, and the department we'll call AIR for artist in residence. And then I will select each of the closets in the studios, call those storage for the name, and the department to be AIR again. Same thing over here. We'll call this coffee shop for the room name, and the department would be retail. And call this one storage again, but the department will be retail. So what we've defined are some kind of overarching typologies that say relate to the kind of program that you've been assigned, the sort of level of program that we were looking at before in the project, or on Thursday as you were breaking down your project. But we're also going through and defining a series of kind of smaller room definitions to align with different parts of this. So the first thing I want to I want to go through and show you is just ways in which you can actually diagram now that you've actually defined each of the different definitions. So one thing to look at is with the wall type that we've been using, just this generic 8-inch wall type. If you want to articulate this more as a kind of diagrammatic plan, you can hit the edit type here, and we've done this a little bit, and we'll certainly be doing lots more of it. And under the main definition here, you can see by graphics the coarse scale fill color and the coarse scale fill pattern. So by default there isn't a fill pattern defined, but it is defined as having a black color. I'm going to hit the ... under the control or coarse scale fill pattern. If you just click in the box, the ... will appear. I'm going to scroll down and find the solid fill and hit OK. And then I'm going to actually change the fill color to like a dark gray instead of black. You could leave it at black however you want, or change it to something else. What you see that I get now is all those walls kind of pop through as a grayish color. That's not quite dark enough. Let's go ahead and switch it back to black. Oops. Why that didn't update? I don't think I had the wall type selected. I did it. Okay, so now what I want to do is actually define a color scheme to go with these. So the room tags will actually allow you to define these color schemes. So here I'm still under level 1, and the color scheme right now has none defined for it over here. And I can select that, and you can see if by default these categories are looking for spaces. If we switch it over to rooms, that the name and the department, the two things that I've already tagged in this are actually can now be tagged with different kinds of programs. So each of the colors are going to be delimited by one or the other of the name or the department. So if I say first do this with just the department levels and say okay, when I come back out here and change this over to hidden line, let's see, it should have tagged the colors. Sorry, so in order to get the colors to come up, you need to be in the wireframe mode there. I was going into hidden line. So here I've got them each tagged by their different room type, or room name. You can see the color scheme is set to name. If I switch it over to department, now I'm going to see the artist in residence space, the retail, and then the exhibit space all sort of highlighted. And obviously you can come in here and change the colors to match some desired pattern that you might want to actually use rather than the default Revit stuff. So if you wanted to do just grays or black and whites, these are a really simple way to kind of get a nice clean diagram going from your floor plans in Revit as you're starting to outline the different program types. So again, changing the coarse fill pattern, you have to have the view set to coarse. If I move it back to fine, you can see that poché goes away. I'm going back to coarse, and then the poché comes back in to just give it some definition. And again, you could hit VG and do the inverse of what we just did. Come down here and uncheck mass so that you just see the floor plates in here. Oh, turn that back on. You can also, in visibility graphics, go to the annotation categories and go to the dimension tags and turn those dimensions on and off. So their model categories is where massing was, and annotation categories is where your dimensions are. So if you wanted to turn these dimension tags off for your diagram, that would be the place to go do it. So at this point now, I want to go ahead and make one more schedule the way we did the other day. So you go to the View tab and hit Schedule and Quantities. We're going to do this really similar to the way we did last time. I'm just going to uncheck everything except for architecture to help simplify. And then I can come down here to Rooms and hit OK. And I can choose what definitions here are important to me. So the area, in this case, the level is relevant. The room number might be relevant. The name definitely is, and the department, as we've defined each of those different pieces. And then I can come over to sorting and grouping, just like we did last time. And I might sort by department first, and then by name as I'm coming through. So I might call the department the header. And here under formatting, if I want those areas to be calculated as totals, I can hit the checkbox to calculate totals. And remember, that's under the formatting tab. That's the one place you got to go that's kind of a bit unique. And then I'm going to just reorder these, right? So I'm going to start with the room number at the top. I want the room area to be at the bottom. Department to come after level. And let's see what that looks like. So I forgot to check the calculate totals, but here you can see I've got the artist in residence, the different room tags that are associated with them, the retail space. They're all on level 1. The departments here are tagged, and then the different room types that go with each of them. So let's go back into there and under sorting and grouping, check the grand totals and just say totals only. And now we get the total, we get the total square footage for that floor plate. And then if we want to do it by department, I think we want to do count and totals. This itemize every instance is where we can actually delimit different versions of each of the different program types in there. I want to leave that on, actually. I don't know why I'm not getting the totals. Area's getting calculated. I'll look at that and okay, sorry about that. So just to get each of the departmental totals under the sorting and grouping, you need to add a footer in under the department to actually get those totals calculated. So here we're getting, so that room number, I need to go back and look at the first room number. It didn't get tagged as a gallery space. But you can see now I've got my 3,500 square feet of artist in residence space, 4,000 in exhibit space, and 1,200 in retail space, and then my grand total for that given floor plate. So go ahead, lay out a floor plate for yourselves with a couple. Try to get 3 different departments of program types. So whether it be artist in residence and exhibit, or retail and office space, but get a good mix in here. So that you can actually start linking up more specificity to the actual program totals as you're laying out your different floor plates. All right, thanks. See you Tuesday.